Okay, so question 15. A standard solution of potassium carbonate is made by adding 1.227 grams of potassium carbonate to a 250 ml volumetric flask and filling it to the mark with water. Okay, cool. And then 20 ml aliquots were taken and titrated against a sulfuric acid solution using methyl orange indicator. The average titer was 22.56 mils. All right, so what's happening here is that we have a titration occurring. So we've got our burette and we've got our conical flask, and in the flask we have our 20 ml aliquots of the potassium carbonate. That's our standard solution. So the concentration of that is, we have to work that out. That's all right. They've made a standard solution of that. Standard solution. And then it's being titrated against sulfuric acid. So sulfuric acid is being added into my conical flask by the burette. Okay, so what's the reaction occurring here? So we've got potassium carbonate reacting with sulfuric acid. So we're going to have a metal being formed, rather a salt. Okay, and carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so let's just make sure our equation is balanced. So we've got 7, yep, 2 oxygen, yep, that looks all balanced to me. Okay, so that's A, and now B, calculate the concentration of the potassium carbonate. So the potassium carbonate is our standard solution, and they've made it by adding 1.22 grams to a 250 ml volumetric flask and filling it to the mark with water. So they've just told us how they've made that standard solution. So they've popped in their grams of potassium carbonate and then they've added water. So what we can do then is calculate the concentration of that. So we need to, concentration is moles per litre. We don't know the amount of moles of potassium carbonate we have yet, but we can figure that out because we know mass is equal to moles times the molar mass. So the mass of potassium carbonate that we have is 1.227 grams equals the moles, which is what we want to figure out, times the molar mass of potassium carbonate. So that is 39.1 plus 39 point plus 16 times 3 plus 12, 138.2. So we know moles is equal to grams over the molar mass. So 1.227 divided by 138.2, 8.9. So that's our mole value of the potassium carbonate, and our concentration then is that mole value divided by the volume that it's in, which is 250 mils of water. So that's 0.25. So the concentration there is 0.036 moles per litre. Okay, so that's the concentration of my potassium carbonate solution. Calculate the concentration of the sulfuric acid. All right, so let's just write this equation again. So our known solution is our potassium carbonate, which we just figured out the concentration of, so we know that one. We've got to use information about that to find out the concentration of the sulfuric acid that we're adding. So we want to know how many moles are in the aliquot, okay? Because that many moles that are in the aliquot are going to be reacting with the moles from the burette. So we know the concentration of potassium carbonate is 0.036. And what's reacting with the sulfuric acid is the 20 mil aliquot. So we want to know how many moles are in that 20 mil aliquot. Okay, so this is a little bit trickier. So the 20 mil aliquot, so 0.02 moles. So we need to multiply that concentration value by 0.02. So that's going to give us a value of 0.0007. So that's the amount of moles that is reacting with the sulfuric acid. And so we can see that we have a 1-to-1 ratio here. So the moles of sulfuric acid that are going to be reacting are 0.07 as well, because we've added just enough sulfuric acid till I meet the stoichiometric ratios, which means I've just added the same amount of moles as my potassium carbonate because it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So the amount of moles that I've added in my titer is 0.0007. Okay, now let us just have a look at that. Yep, cool. So what we need to know though is the concentration of sulfuric acid. That's what the question's asking us. Okay, so this amount of mole, so concentration is moles divided by the volume. So this amount of mole was in what volume? Well, what was the average titer volume? The average titer volume was 22.56. So that as litres is 0.02, what was it? 2256. So that's going to be my concentration value of sulfuric acid. So divided by 0.02256. Okay, so 0.031 molar. And that's how you do that question.